It's before the resurrection. It's at the Last Supper. In John's Gospel, there's a long discourse of Jesus at the Last Supper. It's 3 chapters, 14, 15, and 16. Actually, 15, 16, and 17. And in that long discourse, there are wonderful things that Jesus says to try to make sure the apostles are ready, the disciples are ready for the new experience of carrying on after his bodily departure, after his ascension. This passage that we just heard is sandwiched between 2 events. You heard about the first, Jesus knowing that Judas would betray him. Now, when Judas had left them, Jesus said, so Jesus knew what Judas was going to do. Some of the apostles thought he was going to take care of some commercial things, pay a debt or whatever. Jesus knew exactly what he was going to do. That's the first thing. And then the second thing occurs right after this is when Peter steps up and says, I will stay with you always. I will never desert you. I will be faithful to you immediately and entirely. And Jesus says to him, this night, Peter, you will deny me 3 times. So Jesus knows betrayal and denial and starts to talk about his relationship with God, knowing full well what's going to happen to him, his own death. In that long discourse, there's that famous statement, if you love one another, you will love to the last, to the utmost, completely. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And Jesus says that about his relationship with his disciples, about what's going to happen and how that love will be known. The most important word in this little verse is a 2-letter word, a 2-letter word. Love one another as I have loved you. There are a lot of counterfeits for love. If we want to know the authenticity of love, we look to Jesus and what love really means, the fulfillment of love, the completeness of love. You may have heard about this past week. This is from Denver, Colorado, May the 9th, 2019, 5 p.m. from a news network, CNA, and it's a report of a reporter named Mary Farrow. When Sarah Haynes heard about the shooting at STEM High School in Highlands Ranch, Colorado on Tuesday, she prayed. A Catholic school teacher in Denver until recently, she knew some of her former students who are now high schoolers at STEM. When Haynes learned that Kendrick Costello, a former student of hers, was the lone casualty on the May 7th shooting, she cried immediately. Then she reached out to other students who had been in the same 7th and 8th grade math and religion classes at Notre Dame Catholic High School as Costello. Details of Kendrick's death at that time were not yet public, but her students guessed Costello had died trying to protect others, Haynes said. I went to my students, and we were all just sharing together, and I said, do you think that he blocked the shooter? They said, yes, yeah. I mean, it just wasn't a shock to us that he would give his life for others. On Wednesday, Kendrick's father, John Costello, confirmed to the Denver Post that he had learned from witnesses and the coroner that Kendrick died while charging the shooter to save his friends. It doesn't surprise me, John Costello told the Denver Post. He cared enough about people that he would do something like that, even though it was against my better judgment. Apparently, John and his son had a number of discussions about the importance of life and their religion and what Jesus taught. And they got to the point of student uprisings or shootings. And Kendrick had said, well, if I ever in that position, I would charge the shooter. And his father, John, said, Kendrick, don't try to be a hero. Don't try to be a hero. And Kendrick demurred and said, Father, I think I have to do something. And his father said, well, how do you know? And he said, Dad, Father, it's what you taught me. The seventh grade religion teacher, former religion teacher, goes on. Her name is Haynes. She says, while religion can sometimes be a difficult subject to teach junior high school kids, the whole class was really on a spiritual journey that I just got to witness. They really wanted the faith. They really weren't afraid to ask the tough questions and to be stuck with some of the answers. Haynes credits Kendrick's parents for raising him to be a kind and faithful young man and urged everyone to continue to pray for them for the rest of their lives. Now, a parent herself, Haynes said that while she hopes she never has to experience the tragedy of losing a child, she wants her two boys to grow up to be just like Kendrick. That was Jesus' prayer for his disciples, huh? That they would love like he would love. Sometimes that's a tough thing, as I have loved. There are many counterfeits to love. We think we're in love when we feel love. I think the real situation is we love and then hope the feelings come after that. Love is an act of the will. God says through Jesus, I have so loved the world. Jesus' whole life was a statement of his unity with the Father and the Father's love for the world. That was the point of that whole identity between Jesus and the Father. Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and will glorify him at once. The bond is unmistakable. It's the Father's will that love be poured out on a world, even at times when love is murdered. Love as I love. For Jesus, love was not kind of denying himself. It was the fulfillment of himself. It wasn't a statement of his giving up. It was a statement of his living fuller, completely, totally. So this was glorifying. This was glory. This for Jesus was the moment of the hour of glory. That's what he says. Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. This is the hour. And Jesus looks at it straight in the face and says, this is the fullness of love. This is how love is met out at times in a way that's unmistakable. The end of John's gospel is intriguing because it seems to answer the question, well, do you have to die for your faith in order to be a person of love, or to be, are we all expected to be martyrs? And John's gospel ends with a clear-cut statement, no. The beloved disciple comes up after Peter and dialogues with Jesus at the end of John's gospel. John will go on to live and die a natural death. Peter will be martyred. So it's not just martyrs, it's all of us, huh? Whether we die in terms of a physical kind of end of life that bespeaks of faith in a dramatic way, or we know the reality of suffering. In the marriage rite, it says suffering is usually difficult and irksome. Only love can make it easy, and perfect love can make it a joy. For Jesus, in an unmistakable way, this was a moment of fulfillment, a moment of glorification, a moment of fundamental joy at the Father's unmistakable way of showing his love for the world. The way that community was built, those disciples, and what Jesus tells the disciples, you must love one another. And some have asked, well, aren't we supposed to love our enemies? Aren't we supposed to love the stranger and the alien and others? And we are, and that's there in the Sermon on the Mount. But now he starts with the disciples, those who are closest to him. Sometimes it's hardest to love those who are close to us. Sometimes that's where the real challenge comes. Among the disciples. That's why any kind of rupture in the church is a scandal. If disciples can't love one another, how can they call themselves Christian? Because Jesus said very clearly, you must love one another. This is how all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. So that love begins here in our discipleship and our sense of what Jesus meant and taught about the reality of love, about the greatness of love, about the command of love. And thank God we have examples that we can look to, and Kendrick is just one. Was it 3 days after that? 3 days after that, in Charlotte, North Carolina, the student's name was Riley Howell. Again, charged the gunner, charged the shooter, and died in doing that. His mother said, I knew that if he didn't charge that shooter, he would not be able to live peacefully for the rest of his life. Somehow, we have been charged by the Son of God to value love even over life, to value the love of God for us even over life, and to value Christ's love in us and for each of us as we try to love one another, even over life as we know it, because we know life eternal is really our glory. Life eternal is God's glorification. God lives eternally and desires to share that eternity with us. Hi. You too.